welcome back to another episode of Public Opinion with your host, Pam and Vanetta. Hello, Vanetta. How are you?
I'm quite well.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. You look quite well. I still like your hair. Are you going to be doing anything different with it?
I can't wait to buy me some more hair, okay? This combing your hair every day.
It's for the birds.
It's for the birds. And I only comb my hair once a day anyway, and that's still too much. I liked having that fake hair. And I was always one of those people like, oh, I would never do that. I will never not do it.
Okay. And there was a time when I used to always say never any way I would wear my hair natural. And look at me, I love it.
You love it.
I love it. It's work now. It's work, but I like the freedom of it. I like not putting chemicals in my hair, and it's good. I really, really,
we're gonna have to revisit that as a show because I understand they may be taking it off the market soon. Perm.
Really? That's interesting. They're gonna be just people doing it at their home or just
some black market
stuff. Right, about to say and you're gonna know too. You're gonna be like, she got her hair done on the black market.
On the black market. I think you use a potato. Something like that.
I don't know what you use. But anyway, we are continuing on with our season of 60, and this is our 4th episode. And we still have so much to talk about in our season of 60. So we are going to continue on this week. We have 2 very dynamic guests, and I cannot wait to have the conversation with them that really needs to be had. Now, once again, you all are not going to know what the question is until a little bit later, but this is something, a discussion that everybody needs to have. It's important as we are in our midlife. But we do have 2 very dynamic guests this week. So we are going to get started and meet our guests. First, we have Meltrice Sharp. Meltrice is a CPA. She is a native of Cleveland, Ohio, and a managing partner at Creating Leading Enterprises consulting firm. With more than 20 years as a CPA, Meltrice has extensive knowledge and experience in accounting, tax management, finance, and business consulting. Meltrice is the founding member of Women Creating Wealth and Impact, an organization that addresses the education, knowledge, and access gaps with women and finance. Next, we have attorney Kandee Robinson. In 2013, Kandee Robinson Ching opened her own law office. She just celebrated its 10-year anniversary. Attorney Robinson Ching primarily practices in the areas of domestic relations and probate law. She is also a guardian ad litem who represents the best interests of children in custody cases. So let's get started and meet our guests. Welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for agreeing to be participants on the show this week. I really appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to our discussion. So it wouldn't be the public opinion show if we didn't have a public opinion question of the week. So I am going to show you all the question, and then we'll get started. What are the most important steps to take in preparing to retire and planning your estate? All right. So I am going to let Attorney Robinson Ching answer that first, and I will give you 2 minutes. Go ahead.
I often tell my clients there's 3 things you need to consider when you're first preparing to retire or planning your estate, and it's the why, what, and how. So a lot of people don't understand what estate planning means, and it's really establishing your legacy and establishing how you are going into, your later phase in life. And so if you're not considering where you want to be at the time you're saying, I'm leaving whatever you've been doing for years behind, initially, you can't lay out a plan. It is very important, especially among women and minorities, we don't see estate planning as a pathway to wealth. And I have people come to me whose grandmother had a house or somebody had a business and they didn't do the proper things to leave that to the next generation. And we are often starting over and over again on our pathways to building generational wealth. So I tell my clients to consider, when you are estate planning, you're doing two things at the same time. You're breaking generational curses while building generational wealth. So there's no more fundraisers for funerals, or we all have to get together to make sure mama can stay in her home in her latter years. So you really have to consider, we're breaking those generational curses and we're building generational wealth. So your why, your legacy, the love of loved ones. The next thing you need to do is your what. What do you have in your life that you want to ensure goes on? Like, there's business owners on here, people who have legacies. We own homes. Take inventory of your estate. A lot of times people don't understand that things can be passed on to the next generation, such as a business. A lot of people, they work 20, 30, 40 years and they have a great company, and they don't understand that even if your son doesn't want to take it over, you can leave the business operational and have that go into a trust and create generational wealth for grandkids or other members of your family. So the next thing, after you figure out why you want to ensure your legacy in your future, what is it in your life that you want to be prepared for, to pass on, and how you want to live when it's time for you to retire. I get a lot of probate wards who did not estate plan, and here I come, a stranger that they don't know, dealing with their assets, deciding whether they go in a nursing home, how it gets paid, and there are a variety of documents that you can use to plan that for yourself. You can be the master of your own destiny in retirement, as well as how you leave your legacy. And the last, I say how. You got to do it the right way, legally, with competent, licensed attorneys, tax professionals. I have a lot of people who say, I'm not paying that much for a will or this and that, and they get on LegalZoom. And when that person passes away, here comes their family to me trying to fix whatever's going on, because LegalZoom didn't put a particular word in or particular phrase. So you always want to consider your how is with licensed professionals who know what they're doing, who are going to ensure that what you want to do is done in the correct way under the law.
I cannot wait till we have our whole discussion. That was wonderful. Wonderful. All right, Meltrice, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree. That was wonderful, Kandee. I want to say before I get started, Pam and Vanetta, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I have 15 points, but I won't talk about estate planning because you did that so thoroughly. But, the first thing for me is assessing your retirement savings. Really, really important to understand where you are today. What is your baseline? Most people, I say more than 85% of the people that retire can't sustain their current lifestyle because they have not prepared for retirement. So the first thing you need to do is assess where you are with your retirement savings. The second thing is knowing about your Social Security. Knowing like what age is it when you can take your full Social Security benefits, or do you have your spouse where you'll be able to get some of your spouse Social Security? So really understanding where you are with your Social Security, and we can dive into that a little bit more when we start talking. Also, healthcare. Healthcare is one of those things that kill people in retirement because the price is so high, and you don't really understand if you haven't fully prepared for that. How that's going to impact you financially, and how that's going to impact everything else if you have a big healthcare crisis that you have to pay for. And then, a part of this whole thing is really establishing your plan. Sitting down and saying, what is the lifestyle that I want to live in retirement? Do I want to sustain my current lifestyle, or do I want to be traveling? Do I want to go to where my children are, to where my grandchildren are? Do I want to travel the world? Like, what does that look like? And developing the right plan to do that. Another thing I like women to consider is what kind of debt do you have, right? Let's start looking at that debt and getting that debt paid off before you enter into retirement. We work 70% of our lives to live 100% of our lives. So you don't want to be in retirement paying on debt or things that you acquire that you probably don't have anymore anyway, right? So let's make sure that that debt is paid for. We talked about looking at your retirement portfolio, but looking at your total investment portfolio. You know, a lot of us are investing in our employers' retirement plans. That's our 401ks or our 402bs, but there are other options like Roth IRAs or real estate or franchises or, you know, whatever these things are, but like develop and build your whole portfolio. Another thing to consider is like, if you're young and still vibrant and you're not really ready to stop working fully, what is that part-time gig you want to do that's not stressful, that you can do on your own time, that you can do just to make a little bit of extra money in retirement? Tax planning, really, really critical. Emergency funds. And, you know, one of these things that we don't talk about a lot is, you know, philanthropy. What does philanthropy look like, right? What is that long-term plan to help continue to give back? And then last, I would just talk about your social component. What is that going to look like? Because, you know, we can talk about all the financial things, but what is it going to look like? What are those soul things going to look like? The things that are going to sustain my soul. So.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Oh, so you all touched on everything. Now we're going to dive into this. I love it. I love Attorney Robinson, because you were talking about the after, you know, after your debt and what you need to do to prepare for that. And I love what you're talking about, Meltrice, and that's why I wanted to have both of the components, getting your finances together for retirement, because there's so much still more life to live once you retire, but you want to be able to retire comfortably and know that you're going to have your bills paid and be able, because like you said, I look at what's in my retirement right now, and I'm like, that's like what I would be making in like 2 or 3 years, really, to tell you the truth, if I just were to keep working. So, you know, I want you to touch upon more about what we need to be doing to prepare ourselves financially.
Right. It's frightening, but also I got my Social Security. I'm 61 as to what I can retire and get. And it was offensive.
It was same with me. Mine was so offensive. I said I would have to take 2 jobs. You know,
and my understanding is we can only make $35,000 a year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and believe me, that is not anything that you should be shameful about. It's most people's situation. It's just that, you know, particularly in the African American community, these are things that we don't talk about frequently enough, which is why Women Creating Wealth and Impact is so near and dear to my heart, because, you know, like Kandee said, I'm tired of seeing GoFundMe accounts. They weren't intended to bury our loved ones. They weren't intended in crisis, right? And so what do you do like now? And one thing Kandee said that I love so much, she said, get a professional. One of the things that we think, oh, we can't afford to pay for a professional, but my advice is you pay now or pay later. Right. So you pay now, you pay for someone who's good at their skill and very good at creating the outcomes that you are looking for, then you don't have to pay in the future. Right. So take the time and invest in you, invest in your future, invest in your children's future, so that you can break those generational cycles of curse, of poverty and you know, overwhelmed with debt and different things like that. But I guess, you know, some of the things that you can do to consider growing that, one, do an assessment with your financial advisor and say, here's where's my starting point? What is my baseline? But being very clear, like I said, being very clear on what you want your outcomes to be. So that person can help you develop an investment portfolio that can get you there. That investment portfolio could include like annuities, and different types of insurance plans that helps you in retirement, not just in the event that you pass. You can think about other investments like real estate. And, you know, right now you have to be a little careful now at the age of 60 with investing in the market because of the
Yeah.
volatility in the market right now. But you can do other things like franchise investing. You can invest in other small businesses, right? So there are
Mhm.
all these other options that you can do to start to grow
Right.
money so that it can get to where you need it to be. So
Right.
I just heard something so interesting that I was like, oh God, I'm gonna give her credit the first time. But her Phaedra said this, and she's
Oh,
I'm embarrassed to say my guilty pleasure is like,
oh, you talking about the Real Housewives of
Real Housewives.
Atlanta?
yeah.
Wait a minute, don't feel like that. In my courtroom, I quote Phaedra. I said from the great philosopher Phaedra from Real Housewives of Atlanta, and then I always tell people that every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. I said, so don't
Amen.
go. Okay,
And she's an amazing entrepreneur doing her thing and
Yes.
using her platform now. Do I agree with everything? No, but I do agree
Right.
with empowered
Yes,
women.
empowering and educating, and that's why
Yeah.
Kandee, I think it's important also to educate, especially our people in our community, about the importance of estate planning, because so many of us almost think it's taboo. I remember
Right.
when I was in private practice, I was doing some estate planning, and people would tell me, "Oh, well, I don't like to do a will because it's like bad luck. It means I'm about
Yeah.
to die." I'm like, what are you talking about? We got to get away from ignorance. Okay.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to. And so what do you think can be done to do that?
Can I jump in on that? So
Yes.
I just celebrated 19 years of practice yesterday. And
Congratulations.
yes, and I have
Congratulations.
pivoted my practice in the last couple years to do that, to educate our women, especially Black women in our community, because we are the most affected by the law and we know the least about it.
Yeah.
We know, especially when it comes to what it can do to build foundations in future. So that's what estate planning is. And so I have people who don't want to do wills or get life insurance policies say things like you said, oh, you're going to die, or if I get a life insurance policy,
somebody going to kill me.
Somebody going to kill me. And I tell them, let me listen to this. If you do a will with me, or you need to transfer a house, there's a thing called transfer on death affidavit that you can file with your county recorders, where your person who you leave that house to, all they have to do is get your death certificate. In most places, that's about $40, and pay the filing fee to do that. In most places, it's not going to be more than $60. If you die and that person wants to come and get your house and they come to me, in most counties, just the filing fee is $400. And what you have to pay me to do it is in the thousands. So that's what you're leaving to that next generation, even to get your house. So what happens? They walk away from the house. They sit there. We all have seen them. We rode through neighborhoods where sister so-and-so used to have a nice house. She dies. Nobody has the ability
to just leave
taxes, transfer it. It either gets dilapidated and destroyed, or it comes on the tax sale where somebody else buys it. Now that asset that could have been used to build generational wealth is out of the family. And I tell people, if somebody in your family is going to kill you for your insurance policy, you have a bigger problem than estate planning, okay? So estate planning is so important because you're doing those two things that are happening in our generation, breaking those generational curses of leaving loved ones to find out what to do with you and your assets after you die. Then it's just not the funeral. Retirement plans. I always tell people, and you ladies do this for me tonight, the Secretary of State has a unclaimed funds. And when I tell people that I've done this on other podcasts and public speaking, and I say, not only search yourself, search your grandmother.
I search everybody.
Yeah, search everybody. And all the retirement funds that a piece of paper could have transferred to someone, bank accounts and all that, those assets go there. And when they're not unclaimed, they become property of the state. And there's typically, if you estate plan early, very simple pieces of paper that are not expensive, that can get that asset to the next person, is that we have this idea that estate planning means death. No, it means the future. I often tell people, I have life insurance policies. I heard a pastor say he has them so much that when he dies, when y'all see the first lady at the funeral, she's gonna be crying and laughing at the same time. She's gonna have so much money. And I took that to heart, and I said, think about all the people of other races, economic classes, who somebody's life insurance policy started their future, bought their house, funded their business, paid for their education. And it's also a way, as Meltrice was saying, as you can use that planning for when you pass away as part of your retirement. So there's life insurance policies that can be built in as retirement incomes. Those other retirement vessels that she said, that is all part of your estate planning. I also do guardianship work, and that's when a person does not have the mental capacity to be deemed incompetent, and they have no one who is willing or able to handle the estate of their person, deciding their medical needs where they live, or their financial estate. And so the court appoints me. And sometimes those situations can be really sad, where the person had the financial ability if they would have sat down with someone and planned.
And see, this is why I wanted to do this and utilize my platform for this, because so many times people don't know things, or they just don't want to know. And Meltrice, I have seen you go around, and you've been doing a lot of speeches and been guests at a lot of functions where you're trying to educate people, and I appreciate that. But that's what we have to do. We have to just let people know that it's okay. But
there's a generation of us that do not want to hear that. And this for a fact, Pam. My grandmother, I tried to sit down with her, and I told her I was going to bring Pam up to Detroit to talk to her, and she didn't speak to me for 2 years because she felt like I was putting her in the grave. Now, and what my statement to her was, tell me what you want me to do, because I had a brother who was born outside of the benefit of my parents' marriage, that I had no intention of giving him anything. So if you want me to give him something, let's write it down. Let's have it, because I'm not going to do your wishes. And so it just was problematic.
It is for people. I typically would like to tell women, like, to think about it differently. Like, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a woman, like, I work let me rephrase this. Almost everything I do in life is for my children and my grandchildren. I think most women can say that, their journey of being the best that they can be is for their children to have a role, have the life that they never had, or a better life they had. So why does that change in your death? So, you think about it a different way, like at the time of your children mourning your death, they also have to figure out all of these things and take that off their plates so they can sit in their mourning and their grief. So just taking it from that perspective, I actually sent a girlfriend of mine did my estate plan. She did my power of attorney, my living will, my trust. My husband and I set up a trust. So she did all of that stuff, and we did it for my mom as well. And then she had this end of life request survey that we all filled out. And so I actually had my girlfriend go and do it with my mom. And she kept telling my girlfriend, Meltrice knows all of that. Meltrice knows all of that. And my girlfriend kept, reminding her, Meltrice will be grieving. Why don't we just help her out right now? So she kept reminding her of that till she got to the end of that life survey. And my girlfriend was like, I want to do that for my mom. Because it's all of those questions that we may not know. When did you graduate from school? I don't remember. When my mother graduated from school, and those things, when she became a Christian and church and all of that kind of stuff. It's all of those things. And We just have to start thinking about our children a little more. But we have an oppressed state of mind. So we just have to get out of that state of mind.
Yeah, that's
Where do you
true.
find that end of life survey?
I can send it to you. Send me a message and remind me.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Well, actually, yeah, is that something that's available that you can provide for people online too? If there's somebody else who's watching this and wants to know where they could get that?
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'll send you her website, which I believe is sitting on her website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's something that everybody should have, should fill out that.
I think that would be highly valuable
very
because years ago
valuable.
I started writing my obituary, and I write a little bit of it every year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things change.
Yeah.
That's
It's the truth.
Right.
And that's a good segue into making sure that you're constantly revisiting like your beneficiaries.
Yes.
Yes.
And just making sure all of that stuff is
Well, things are up to date. Yes. I
Yeah.
have to redo my will because the last time I did my will, my kids were minors. I still have stuff in there about who's going to take care of them. I'm sure something happened to me. I said, my husband just told me the other day, he said, we need to redo our will. I was like, yeah, we do. But yeah, that's true. You don't think about it because life happens and just years go by. And also people need to let people know where their important documents are.
Right.
Because a lot of times people die, you don't know where anything. You just got to wait till bills start coming in, or something before you know anything.
Or you look under the mattress, and that's where our people kept their money.
We got to get away from that and start dealing with things the way our other counterparts deal with it.
There
I tell people all the time, like there's a digital vault. So you can house stuff digitally, but there, for me, and I think is a great thing, is to have a fireproof safe where you give people, maybe not a key, not the key as in the key, but now they're digital keys. So you can give the people that you want to have a digital key so that they know where everything is. And every time I get a new statement, I remove the old one and I put the very latest statement in there so that they always have the latest and greatest. Another thing that we don't think about too, if we're married, is our credentials. So like with our bank account, there's, and Kandee, I'm sure she can talk about this, but my girlfriend told me this, and I literally just learned this maybe 3 years ago, something called transfer upon death.
Yes,
TOD.
like
if you have a bank account that your husband doesn't have access to, or if his name is not on, he can't get access to unless you add him to that bank account. So we had to do all of that stuff. So that's another thing. And then just all of my credentials, my username and passwords. That's something that I make sure is in there as well. And I'm updating that frequently as well.
Meltrice,
that's
this
a
is
good
how I usually
idea.
tell my clients to deal with it. One, a lot of people don't know you can file your will beforehand with the probate court in your county. And most times that deposit is very small. So when a person goes to probate your estate, if they cannot find your will, it's already there at the court.
Yes.
I typically tell my clients to do is I make, when they do a will or any other trust documents, I make multiple originals. And so we file one with the court, they have one, and then you give it to a trusted person outside of your house.
Yes.
And in that packet, you put an inventory sheet. Remember I was talking earlier about an inventory of assets, where the bank accounts are, all your cars, everything that should be transferred. So just in case you didn't get to do all those transfer on death affidavits and paperwork, people know where to look. Because I find a lot of times when I'm probating an estate, people are coming in, and after some months when we're doing the inventory, they find a savings account with $100,000 that they would have missed if they'd happen not to know such and such on the bank and say, oh, did you know he had a savings account here? Those things. So take an inventory, put it with your will, all those documents, and make sure somebody has a copy. And then I also scan them and email them to myself and the client, because if they can't find the original, there is a venue called a spoliated or lost will, where if you have a copy and you can find those two witnesses, it can still be probated. But our wish with planning your estate is to never have to go to probate court.
Yes.
So
Right.
if you have the right competent
That's true.
professionals in your estate planning, your family can avoid that. But you do want to have the will as the backup so that if you do, that's what happened in that situation with that $100,000 savings account. You can file that and get access to that money in a way where it doesn't, hit you with bigger estate taxes and things.
Right.
So make sure you make copies of all documents, the fire-proof safe, like Meltrice said, and giving a copy to a competent, trusted person.
You know, I think what would be good is to have what you said, Meltrice, the what did you say? It was like an inventory or no, the form that you were talking about.
End of life.
The end of life form. Also, Attorney Robinson, have a checklist, of these the things that I need to, make sure that people know about, make sure that I have. And then just make sure that you follow that checklist, an easy checklist like you would do for anything else. So I think that would be very helpful for people as well, just to make sure that they know that they're doing the right things that they need to do to prepare. And I think that's what it is. I think people just feel overwhelmed by the whole thing. They also have a sense of morbidity. It's just this. It is a morbid type of a topic. It's scary, but it's something that has to be done. And it also needs to be done, like you all said, to maintain generational wealth. We need to really, really hammer that in, because like I said, a lot of our counterparts, they are doing these things. They mourn for their families too, but they also have their stuff together because they want to make sure that they're getting the money.
They mourn and they also buy a summer home.
They mourn and they move on.
They buy a summer home.
They buy a summer home, start businesses, go to school.
Right.
Absolutely. A couple of things.
And I think it's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's true that you want to have your money allotted where you want it to go, because we've all seen monies go to people who we thought maybe they shouldn't get all of that money at one time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Vanetta, actually you segue into one of the things that I was going to say, which is, even blended families. So one of the things that was a very tough conversation for my husband and I, who was a blended family, is everything that I acquired before we got married, that's my children's stuff. Like they're the ones that struggled with me to acquire that. Now, anything that we acquire after, then we can share that amongst our blended family. But even the things that you acquired before you met me, that's your children's stuff. They deserve to have that. They struggle with you to acquire those things. And so that's a conversation that you have to have, particularly with the blended family. And like you said, Vanetta, you had a cousin or a brother or something like that. Like you wouldn't be giving that stuff to him, right? So it stops the infighting, right? So they say the thing that causes the most family fallouts is, death.
That's true.
And sickness and illness, right? So
people show a different side of themselves.
How do we stop that from happening?
Yes. And the way that we can stop it is from having these discussions now and planning. It's all about planning and educating yourself, because you cannot plan if you don't know, so you have to be able to educate yourselves. We have to continue to have these conversations and let people know that it's okay to talk about these type of things, because everybody is going to die. Everybody is going to, hopefully, the majority of us will grow old and maybe retire, and you need to be prepared to be able to live after retirement where you don't have to feel like you have to just wonder where you're going to get your money from. So these are all very, very important things that we have to talk about. But we're getting to the end of the show. This was such a good conversation. So in closing, I'm going to give both of you opportunity. Is there anything that you really want to make sure that you have said or you still want to say? Go ahead, Meltrice, and then I'll let you go, Kandee.
I just think one of the things we talked about is the planning part. Just because you avoid it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen anyway, right? So again, poor planning begets poor outcomes. And I don't think we work as much as we work in life to have poor outcomes. We work as much as we work in life for good outcomes, for the outcomes that we desire, so that our children can live the lives that we fought so hard for. So, just plan. One of the things you guys said is that what our counterparts do, but insurance is one of the last tax-free ways that our counterparts leave tax-free wealth to their children. So let's just be intelligent and be proactive about this. Let's stop starting at the back of the bus. Every generation, we should start with an edge. And this is how we start with an edge: by planning, preparing, and educating ourselves, and passing that planning, preparation, and education to the next generation.
All right.
Great, sister.
Kandee, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to start what Meltrice said. The education is the most important to me. Because once we start doing something with each generation, and we've seen it just with our generations, once it becomes a practice for you, it becomes a norm for the next generation. So there is not a discussion for my children whether they estate plan, it's how they estate plan. And so the wealth that's left to them will be left to their children will leave it to their children, because they will not have a choice. Because that is going to be part of our family legacy. The other thing is, we've all said it, we're all going to die anyway. And if you don't make the estate plan, there are laws that make it for you. Like Vanetta talked about that brother, and she said she wouldn't leave him anything. Well, it depends if she could make that decision, if paternity was established or not.
Right.
That's
right.
So
now that's the
that
truth.
was her grandmother's intention,
and if she
might not be able to honor that because she did not plan. So make the plan, because otherwise it will be done for you.
Right.
Another thing that was touched on, those blended families or who should get what, those are the most trying estate plan cases I get. And it's terrible to see. The family is never the same after that. Whoever dies, grandma, dad, even mother who got remarried and everything went to her new husband. And it breaks down what we're trying to do. We're trying to move the generations forward and build, and families get destroyed over the lack of planning. And so I tell people, we're breaking these generational curses while building our generational wealth, and don't leave people stressed when you get to the point where you're incapacitated or dying. Leave them blessed. I think,
amen.
Right. Vanetta said people buying summer homes and all that. My kids not pass away, everybody debt free, and they're gonna be smiling and crying too when you see them, except for my husband. He need to lay out on the ground and be out. But that's the importance of estate planning. That's your foundation.
Well, thank you. Oh, my
makes a
goodness. Thank you, ladies, so much. I really appreciate every single thing that you all said. And I know everybody is going to feel very well educated. We need to continue these conversations. We need to make sure that we are letting other people know that we need to be educated and not be fearful of information and just act upon things. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. You are extraordinary women. You are doing our community a great service.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate
it. Oh, once again, we had some dynamic guests this week.
They were wonderful. I mean, I learned so much in that short snippet of time, and there's so much more to be learned.
There's so much more to be learned, and it's such an important topic. I'm glad to have both of them, because like I said, we have to talk about finances and the importance of really maintaining and educating people about just generational wealth, educating people about maintaining the wealth that they have, and about how they can get wealth, and also about what you can do to prepare yourself for what's going to happen to your wealth after you die. And that's a subject that we need to talk about. We don't have to be afraid
to keep this conversation
to talk about it.
And it's never too late to get started.
It's never too late to get started. It really is not. So if you enjoyed this conversation, if you enjoy our subject matter, continue to follow us on Facebook, and also listen to us wherever you hear your podcast. So until next time, we'll see you for another episode of Public Opinion. Bye.